Boker Tov, Shavua Tov, Surot Tovot. Today's daf is daf Mem Hey in Shavuos as we learn for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, Hanasunim Basar V'Shivya, including us, not just Achenu, but us too. So we should all be safe from Mitzvah Hashem. All right, we're at the 14th line of daf Mem Hey and Aleph where we left off. This is a long Mishnah, as we had in previous Prakim. One Mishnah that we have it in the Gemara, the way the Mishnah is several Mishnayos together for the whole parak, lists them all together. So we'll see if this is basically like the whole parak, or is there a Mishnah also at the end? This seems to be the only Mishnah in the parak, and we're close to the last parak, which is really on the last daf. This week in Mitzvah Hashem on Thursday we make a siyum, and that's the last parak. In the last parak will be on the last day of Shavuos. Amalek and Vani. So the Mishnah talked about this. Most Shavuos in the Torah are where you swear to avoid payment. All right, the plaintiff said, "Give me money," and the defendant said, "No, I only owe you half, or I owe you a third, whatever." He has to make a shvua, or you make a shomer makes a shvua in order to avoid payment, that he's not responsible, etc. That's what usually we have a shvua for. However, the Chum instituted several times when you also swear to take money, and the Gemara and the Mishnah gave several examples of that, including the wage earner, the laborer, the worker. Even though he's swearing to get his paycheck, we'll see the Gemara will explain why he has to swear there as opposed to the owner, the boss, who should swear that he paid him already if there's a dispute, right? Or a nigzel, a person who had something stolen from him, he's trying to get something back. Nechbal, the Gemara will explain, the Mishnah already explained those cases, but the Gemara will go into more detail on all of them. Person who was injured and he's trying to get exact payment from the person who injured him. Or or if his co-litigant, the one who's his opponent in the litigation is not trusted to make a shvua, so then even though the person who's not trusted, he's supposed to make a shvua to avoid payment. But if he's not trusted, you can make a shvua to take away payment from him. And chadvani al pinkaso, the case that was described with a chadvani where. Let's say a person, a balabayit, came to the chavani, listen, pay my workers some money. The workers claimed they weren't paid, and he claimed that he paid them. So both of them, both the chavani, the shopkeeper, the makolet owner, and the workers who he was supposed to pay on behalf of the balabayit, can both swear to take the money from the balabayit. So that's where they swear to take money. The Gemara now, the Mishnah from the 14th line of Memhei gives more examples. Some of these are examples not where you're swearing to take money, but swearing to avoid payment, like these first cases. You tell the shopkeeper, "Tenli b'dina Paris. Listen, give me some. I would like to buy $1 worth. I use the word dinar and dollar interchangeably. Give me $1 worth of fruit." V'nasanlo, he gave him the fruit. Amarlo tenli yes also dinar. Well, give me the $1 now. Amarlo nasatav. I already gave you the $1. You put it in the cash register, you put it in your money bag. So who has to swear there? There's no dispute that he sold him the payros, he gave him the payros. Yishba balabayas. The balabayas has to swear shenasan lo dinar. He has to swear that he paid him already. Now this is a case where he's swearing to avoid payment, but it's also because the shopkeeper has agreed to the deal and he said he gave him payros. The question is, did he pay for it? So he says, the Tanakama says that he has to swear, here he's swearing to avoid payment because it's considered as if it's already his rishus. The Gemara will talk about this. Where are the payros? Generally, we have a rule that wherever the payros are, hamotzi mechaver al varaya, whoever's holding on to it would have them. For example, let's say the shopkeeper or the greengrocer, whatever you want to call him, let's say he still has the payros in his possession. So the other guy says, "I pay you already, give me the payros," but you want the payros, so if they're really in the shop still, the shopkeeper can say, "You prove that you paid it. I don't have any proof that you paid. Proof that you paid." If it's in the purchaser's possession, he already took them home. So the guy could say, the purchaser could say, "You want my money? Prove that I haven't paid you." Here it's speaking about where the payros are really in Rishus Rabim, so no, it's not in either one's Rishus. However, clearly he assigned him the payros, and the question is, did he pay him? The Tanakama says that the purchaser, in this case, here he calls the Baal Bayis the purchaser, or the purchaser called the Baal Bayis. He has to swear that he paid him. Why? Because it's clear that he gave him the payros, or that he assigned him the payros, And the question is, did he pay him or not? So if he swears that he paid, he swears to avoid payment. Amarlo, the other way around. Amarlo, tell me Paris, give me the Paris. Amarlo, nasatim l'cha. I gave you the Paris already. Here's a dispute. Did he give him the Paris or not? He already took him home. In other words, he paid for it. He paid for it. He says, listen, here's the money. Give me the Paris. He says, I gave you the Paris before. Here, Yishbe Chanvani. So here the Chanvani is trying to swear to avoid having to give him the Paris again. Because the assumption is, he said, look, tell me the Paris, I gave him to you already. The deal's done. So the Chanvani here swears that he gave him the Paris already. Here he's he's swearing to avoid payment again. Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rashi, the next case, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kol sheParis biyado yal tachtona. Rabbi Yehuda says here, look, there are cases where people pay on credit, right? The shopkeeper gives you credit. Here is speaking about where it wasn't on credit. Here's the money, give me the payros. So over here, Rabbi Yehuda says, if the guy already has the Paris in the first case, where the Chanvani said to the Chanvani, here, give me $1 worth of fruits. He gave him the fruits. Now he says, give me the money. So the Tanakama said, you have to swear that you paid already, that you avoid payment. Rabbi Yehuda says, you don't even have to swear. You don't have to swear because he would have never given me the payros if I didn't pay him. It doesn't work that way. We're not talking about where they gave it on credit. So if you wouldn't give him the payros, you can't say I didn't and pay. It's like you go into a store and you bought something and you paid for it, you walked out. The guy comes out of the store running after you and say, hey, you didn't pay. What do you mean I didn't pay? You wouldn't have given me the items if I wouldn't have paid. They would have said something right away. So that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that in the first case, the purchaser doesn't even have to swear. Now, the same issues that we just had with Paris, the Gemara gives the same disputes with regard to changing money. Instead of just interchange the word shulchani for chanvani. Almost shulchani told the shopkeeper, the money changer, tell me b'dinner most, give me change, give me $1 worth of change. Most meaning small money of change of $1. V'nasan lo, and he gave it to him. Amalo Tanya said, give me the dinner. I gave it to you already. You put it in your money bag. Yishba Balabayas, the Balabayas should swear that he gave him the dinner already. We'll see Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with this too. Let's say he gave him the $1. He must give me the change. I already gave you the change before, so you put it in your pocket. Yishba Shachani could swear again to avoid payment because he says, I already gave you the change. Rabbi Yehuda says in the first case, Ein Darav Shachani Lit Nisra Chito dinner. The shulchani does not usually give the change until you give the $1. You go to a money changer, right? He is not going to give you the change, right, Kurt? Before you give him the money, right? Before you slip that money under that little window, with the bulletproof window that you slip the money under, he's not going to give you the money before. So therefore, there's not even a need for the purchaser to swear that he gave him the money already, because there's no way, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's no way that he would have given him the change without giving him the money first. That's all one kind of halacha. It's not exactly like the other cases, because we said at the beginning, the shvuos in the Torah you swear to avoid payment. This is like that kind of a shvuah too, where you're swearing to avoid payment. The Mishnah's real concern was showing us cases where you swear to take payment, which is a drabanan in those 5 cases. Now the Gemara goes on to other cases of shvuah. Let's say the Gemara goes on like this. Shem Shamri, we have a rule like this. A woman is coming to collect her ksuba. She has a ksuba, let's say, for $200, and she's coming to collect it from the husband. The husband's right here. And he says, didn't I pay you already? And she admits that she got partial payment. It was, let's say the ksuba was $200, and she says, yeah, you gave me $100 already. And he says, I paid you the whole thing. So she has to swear, just like we say by ksuba, hapokemus ksubasam. If she impairs her ksuba, what does that mean? She admits that it's not, she has a ksuba here for $200, but she admits it's partially paid. He already paid her $100. The rest she has to swear shvuah. She has to make a shvuah. Obviously, if he doesn't have a receipt in this case, and he didn't demand from her, well, give me the ksuba, I'm not going to pay you at all until you tear up the ksuba, but it was partially paid. She has to pay the rest of the shvuah. Just like we say there, you can only collect with the shvuah. The same thing. Let's say she has one witness. There's one witness that says that it's been paid off. The husband has one witness that it's been paid off. He doesn't have 2 witnesses. She is the ksuba. He has one witness that it was paid off. Again, she has to, in order to collect, she has to collect with the shvuah, because the one aid cannot absolve the husband of payment. but it could force her to make a shvuah. She has to swear the shvuah.
Brian,
Yeah.
it's not a simple case of motive of mixats where she wants her shuba and she already admits it.
Right. Why isn't it the simple case of motive mixas? So motive mixas in a case like that, where it's not, he claims he paid the whole thing. She says it's not an issue. A motive mixas is where you swear to avoid payment, the shvur d'oraisa. You ask me, you say I owe you $1,000, and I say I only owe you 200, so I have to swear in the other 800. Here, the one who paid it says I paid the whole thing. He's called for a call. He says I paid you the whole thing. You have accepted, but I paid the whole thing already.
But she said she already got. She got
over here. She's the plaintiff. She's the plaintiff. She's not the defendant. She's the one asking for the money. She's the one asking for the money. She has a ksuba. And she admits she got part of it already. So she has to swear. It's not a motive mixes is where the defendant is motive that he has that he paid that some of it he's motive that he owes some of the money, right? So the part that he admits the part that he denies, he has to make a shvu on. That's motive mixas. Where the defendant is motive mixas. Here the plaintiff is motive mixas. So here she has to swear. She has a ksuba. She has the document. She has to swear the shvu. If she collects from the chasim mishubadim, let's say she's collecting from her husband's properties that he sold to somebody else and she has a prior lien again, or from nechsei, let's say the husband's dead. A woman collects a ksuba either based on divorce or on death of the husband. Now she's collecting from small children. Even though she has a full ksuba. There's nobody claiming that they paid it off already. She's coming with a ksuba, I want to collect it. But if she's collecting from the chasim mishubadim to other people that the husband had sold to others, or from small children, she has to make a shvuah. And also, let's say the husband divorced her from overseas, or he's traveling overseas, whatever, and he divorced her, and she's not there. He's not there to claim against her. Maybe if he would be here, he would say, I paid you already, or I paid you some of it. Also there, she can only collect with a shvuah. So just like we say in all those cases where she's collecting the ksuba under difficult circumstances, she admits part of it was paid. There's 1/8 who claims the whole thing was paid. She's collecting from Mishubadim, from Yisomim, or he's not even here. She has to make a shvuah the same way. The Mishnah goes on the same way. The Gemara is going to explain means this. Let's say Yisomim are collecting from Yisomim. Let's say Yisomim are collecting a shtar from Yisomim. Not necessarily ksuba, just Yisomim are collecting. They have an IOU that they found in their father's papers, and they want to collect from other Yisomim. They have to make a shvuah. What's the shvuah that they make? That they weren't paid. The father was the one who would have been paid. So they say shvuah shelo pakanaba. We swear that our father never told us that this has been paid. We have this document here. Apparently, it's not paid. Our father never told us. The father never told us anything about this. We never found a receipt among his papers. Let's say the child over here was born after the father died. The father had money that was owed to him. He had an IOU in his possession. The son, this baby, was born after the father died, so he never even saw his father. The father could have never told him anything, that it was paid, it wasn't paid. Hareza nishba v'notel. The same thing, he has to make a shvuah. What is a shvuah? Shvuah is that I have no records that this has been paid. I have a legitimate IOU, it's got item on it, etc. No record that it's been paid. I swear that I have no records to that effect, no reason to believe it's been paid, so he can collect that with a shvuah. Amr Shmuel, he can only collect with a shvuah. Amr Shmuel Gamliel. So these are all shvuahs, and these shvuahs that we're talking about are shvuahs to collect, not the shvuah d'oraisa, but the shvuah to collect. But there's suspicion here. Amr Shmuel ben Gamliel. Let's say there's proof. There's Adam who say we were at the father's deathbed, and he said shtar zayna prua, and he said that this I tell you this shtar has not been paid off. Who noto shelo b'shvuah. Shmuel says there the children could take without a shvuah because there's Adam that the father said on his deathbed that it's not been paid. So then the kids don't have to make a shvuah that our father didn't tell us anything. That's what Shmuel Shita. The Tanna Kama doesn't agree with that. Sometimes a guy on his deathbed says, he wants to gain respect for his children who are now going to be orphans. So he says, we have a lot of outstanding money coming in. Here's an IOU. Here's an IOU. These kids are wealthy kids. You have to show respect for them. That's what he's trying to do. So therefore, the fact that he said something on his deathbed He wouldn't necessarily lie and say something terrible on his deathbed, as we saw. He's not going to, as we saw before, that he's not going to lie on his deathbed for some other people, but he might have just said that as a way of saying, "Oh, we have a lot of money coming in." So therefore, the Tanna Kama doesn't agree with this. But with Pascal Gamliel, if the father said on his deathbed, we assume he wouldn't lie. If he says this star is not parua, it's not been paid, then the children can collect even without making a shvuah. Now, the following people swear even without a claim. Normally, when you swear, when the person opposing you says, you owe me money. You owe me money, whether it's a laborer telling a boss, whether it's an IOU, whether it's a ksuba of a woman, you owe me money. I know you owe me money, and you have to make a shvuah countering that, unless they can't make the shvuah for some reason. And we said, or the rabbis assign the reason to the claimant instead of to the defendant. But the following people swear even if the claimant is not sure. Hashutfin, partners. You ever find partners who trust each other? It's rare. So here, the partner can say, listen, I don't know that you took anything, but I don't trust you just like you don't trust me. I want you to make a shvuah that you didn't steal any money from the kitty over here, right? So, or recent sharecroppers, apitrips and guardians. Let's say a woman, husband dies and there's children in the house, and the woman in the house is the only one who can take care of things, whether she's the mother of the children or whether she's the stepmother of the children. But she could be under suspicion. All these people sort of are moraheta. They say, look, I took care of things. I'm a sharecropper. I'm a guardian. I'm a partner. I'm entitled. They have feelings of entitlement. Uben Abayis, or let's say one of the older sons is taking care of the affairs of the house. So they're all moraheta for themselves, and they feel they're entitled. So the guy says to him, what are you claiming from me? He says, no, Rasoni Shetishbali. I don't know. I'm not really have a definite claim. I don't know that you took anything, but I want you to swear that you haven't done anything. Chayv, he has to swear. But once these partners or sharecroppers have divided up, in other words, when it comes time to dividing up the money, then he could say, listen, please swear to me you haven't taken extra part, that you haven't gone beyond what you're entitled to. But once they've done it already, then he can't make him swear anymore. However, we learned from Gemara and Sota, from the case of Sota, we learn out. Not only we learn out that amen means, yes, I agree to the shvuah, but amen teaches that what we learn from there, Gilgul shvuah, that once she swears on one thing, she can swear on something else. For example, normally you can't make her swear that she wasn't mezana before the chuppah, after the erusin and before. But once you make a shvuah that once she swears on after the chuppah, you can make her swear before also. Gilgul shvuah, so you can make her swear too. So here, even though we just said that you can make a shutef or an aris or an apitripis or somebody taking care of the household affairs, that the guardian, maybe he make him swear that he didn't take anything. That's only until everything was divided up. After it was divided up, you can't make him swear anymore. However, if you can make him swear for some other reason, then you can cause him to swear on that he didn't steal anything from the kitty before they divided up the money as well, even though it's after they divided up the money. And now an interesting halacha. We know that Shemitah, at the end of Shemitah year, all loans are canceled unless you wrote a prusbul, right? All loans are canceled. So he says like this, let's say the guy had a claim. Reuven said to Shimon, you owe me $1,000. And Shimon said, I only owe you $200. So he has to swear on the other 800 that he doesn't owe that money. That's the Shavuos Moed B'Miktzas. Let's say he didn't make the Shavuos Moed B'Miktzas before the end of Shemitah year happened. Shemitah cancels the Shavuot as well. That's the interesting thing. Not only does it cancel a loan, it cancels the obligation to make the Shavuot. Says the Gemara at the beginning of the Gemara. The beginning of the Mishnah said, Nishbon Menatorah, swear in order not to pay. No, how do we know this? The Pasuk says, Shavuos Hashem Yeh Ben Shneim, right? There'll be a Shavuot, two litigants are fighting one another. They have to make a Shavuot, like a Shomer and the Balabais and the Shomer. It says, V'lokach Ba'olav, the Baal will swear V'lo Yeshalem. Who will take the Shavuot? He'll make a Shavuot in order not to pay. Mishal V'Shalem lo Shavuot. Mishal V'Shalem, the one who has to pay if he can't, if he's responsible, he has to make the Shavuot that he's not responsible. Mishal V'Shalem, the one who would otherwise be responsible to pay, he's making a shvua in order not to be responsible. That's lakach balav, the one who lakach balav, who's the balam over here, who's the balabayit, the one who's trying to avoid payment. Lakach balav v'lo yisham, the one who wants to avoid payment, he has to want to make a shvua, so he makes a shvua in order to avoid payment. We said the Eilin Nishman ben Otlin. So we talked about 5 cases in the Mishnah specifically that swear not like the Torah says that you swear to avoid payment, but they swear that in order to take the payment, not to avoid taking the payment, they swear in order to take the payment, to collect the payment. The first one was the sachir, the worker. Why does the worker pay? Normally, who has to pay him? The boss has to pay the worker. So if there's a claim, the worker says, you owe me money, and the boss says, I paid you, normally men Torah, the guy should swear to avoid payment, right? If it's someone that mixes, if he denied the whole thing, he's totally off the hook, men Torah, he only has to make a shvua hesses. But either way, the one who would make the shvua would be the defendant in this case, who was the boss. So why did the rabbi say that the worker should make the shvua? Maishna sacher that the kinu rabbanan the mishtaba v'shakol. Why did the rabbanan say when it comes to worker? In other words, in all other cases in the Torah, Reuben says to Shimon, you owe me money, and Shimon says, no, I don't, or I only owe you partial. So Shimon has to make the shvua. Why over here does Reuben have to make the shvua? The one who's making the claim, the worker, why does he have to make shvua? Amir B'Shmuel, Hilchos Gedol Shanakan. We learned a great halacha over here. So Gemara says, Hilchos, what it sounds like halachas usually means halacha in the Gemara means halacha mashmi Sinai. Hani hilchas in it. What are these halachas? These are not halachas. This is not halacha mashmi Sinai. B'chi halacha mashmi Sinai. They're not halacha mashmi Sinai. Stam when it says the Mishnah says halacha means halacha mashmi Sinai when it's find it in the Gemara. Elaima takanas gedol shanakan. We learned a great decree here, a great remedy to fix things. What is that? Gedolos machaldi ktanos, so they're small ones. All takanos are important. Ela Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel takanos kvu shanakan. We learned a fixed takana here. What does that mean? Kana kru rabbanan. The rabbanan made a strong statement. They uprooted the shvua mibalabayis from the boss. The boss would have to swear, I paid you already, or I paid you partially. V'shetyu sacher, and they put the shvu on the sacher. Why? Mishum k'dei chayav. Because otherwise, in order for him to make a parnasa. Otherwise, we're afraid a boss will always deny payment. And this poor guy, we're assuming the boss has money, the worker does not. So we say, well, listen, if the guy's not going to pay him, he'll always swear he needs to make a parnasa. If you always rely on the boss will avoid payment because it's parnasa. Says the Gemara, Mishim k'dei chayav the sacher, because of the parnasa, because of the needless the necessity for the sacher to make a living. Kansina balabayas, we find the balabayas. The balabayas is entitled to make a shvua that he paid already. Why do you say no? Take away the shvua from him and give it to the sachir, so the sachir could make a shvua. Maybe it's not fair to the balabayas. Balabayas kufei nechale. The balabayas is happy to let the sachir make the shvua. The mishtaba sachir, he's happy to let the labor, the worker swear the shackle and take the money. Because this way workers will know that they can always collect. If the guy refuses to collect, they can make a shvua and collect. In other words, the balabayas is happy to let the sachir make the shvua and collect, because otherwise, if that wouldn't be the case, nobody would want to work for the boss, because the boss could always deny payment. Says Gemara Adarabba, sachir nechale, let the other way around. The worker should be happy. The lishtababayas, let the balabayas swear v'nafka, and what? To avoid payment, to cancel the payment. Ki heicha de ligre le balabayas, so that he should be hired by the balabayas. In other words, he's afraid. If the balabayas says, "Oh, you're going to make a shvu and get your paycheck multiple times," he's not going to hire anybody. So maybe the worker should be happy. Let the balabayas swear, as long as I get a job. In other words, you're looking at it from whose point of view? You want to say you're looking at it from the point of view of the balabayas, that the balabayas is happy so that he should have workers available to work. Just the opposite, the worker might be happy to get a job, right? The Gemara says, well, balabayas al korche agar. The balabayas has to hire workers. What do you mean? You don't say he should be happy that he'll get workers. He's got to hire workers no matter what. The worker also, even against his will, he needs to get a job. He needs to work. So you could look at it from both points of view. Who should make a shvua based on the other guy's happy, let him shvua so he'll have a job. He'll be happy so he'll get workers. The reason why we say that even though the Balabayas Torah should make the shvua, if he's moed b'miksa, if it's a shvua deraisa, if he's kofer akol, it's a shvua drabanan. But the Balabayas really should make the shvua. But rather, the reason is the Balabayas tar b'pol. If he's busy paying, he's got 100 workers over here. Who's getting paid? Who didn't get paid? He's busy. So therefore, he might get confused. He might not. He might get confused. If a lace of and therefore we say let the sachir, let the worker demand the payment and make the shvua, because Abayis is busy with his workers, and therefore he might be mixed up. Rashi says shenosin schar lekama polim. So he might say, "Oh, I paid this guy, I paid that guy already." So he might get confused. So he said, "Put it on the worker." So let him collect without a shvua. Why does he have to make a shvua? If you're saying the balabayis could be mixed up, he doesn't know, the boss doesn't know who he paid and who he didn't pay. So let the worker collect without a shvua. That's to pacify the balabayis that the worker shouldn't be demanding money even though he might have gotten paid. Let him get shvua. Why doesn't he do this? Why don't you say that let him get paid? He shouldn't get paid unless there's Adam there. So this way there's no shvur. Make a rule. You should only pay the workers with proof. Today you wouldn't have that problem because today you have direct payment or you have a pay check or a slip or something or a check. So you wouldn't have those problems. But in those days when everything was cash and there were no records, it says maybe you should get paid with Adam. That's too complicated. Too complicated to say always bring Adam every time you're going to make a payment. Those Adam are never there. I mentioned many times that Rav Shapiro says that in 25 years of being an Av Bezdin, he never had one case decided by two Adam. Because most cases, when there's contract disputes and issues between people, there's usually not two Adam there. So that's a big problem. Why doesn't he get paid up front? Why don't you avoid the payment as to what? As to who did I pay this guy? This guy's got 100 workers. Did I pay you? Did I pay you? I got mixed up. No, let the worker make a shvua. Have a simple solution. Pay him up front. At the beginning of the day, pay him up front. It says, no, Shnein Rotzen Bakafa, they both want credit. Why? The Balabayis wants credit because maybe he doesn't have money yet, right? Till he'll collect money during the day to make the payroll at the end of the day. The worker also prefers to get paid at the end of the day because he doesn't want to lose the money. He wants to know when he goes home, before he stops at the bar, he'd like to have some cash in his pocket. He doesn't want to have any, if he gets paid at the beginning of the day, maybe it'll get stolen, maybe he'll lose it with his lunch or whatever it is. They both prefer that way. If that's the case, says the Gemara on the top of my bays, afilu katzas nami. What happens if there's a dispute how much he's going to get paid? Not all workers get the same amount of money. If that's the case, that we let the worker makes the shvua, right? That because of the balabayis is confused, we put the shvua on the worker. So if that's the case, even if there's a dispute as to how much he's supposed to get paid, the worker should also be believed. Alamatani, why we learn uman, an artisan, a craftsman. Omer Shtaim. Let's say the craftsman says, Shtaim katsasli. You said you're going to give me $2 for this to fix this shirt. No, I only agreed to pay you one. The uman, the one who gets to get paid, he has to bring proof, right? So here too, the one who wants to get paid here, the worker wants to get paid, he should have to bring proof. Why do you say you believe with a shvua? People remember an amount. Everybody remembers for sure how much they were going to get, how much the price was, or how much the wages were per hour, or whatever it was, or per day. So therefore, he doesn't make a shvua about that. If that's the case, right? So we said the Gemara says, it's over here, right? Or Adam, how much? We said you have to bring proof. Proof could mean Adam, right? He shouldn't be believed with the shvua. That was Gemara, and you have to bring Adam, and he's not believed with the shvua. The answer is shvua. We can trust him in this case because if the fixed amount, how much he was supposed to get paid per hour, he would remember, just like the people would remember. In the case of an uman, we say because each person remembers differently. But over here, we say we believe him because he knows how much he would be paid. He knows what the terms were of the payment. The question is only, was he paid or not? So that we believe him about this too. In other words, he doesn't have to bring proof. He swears that he's owed this amount of money, and he swears how much he is owed per hour or per day, whatever the agreement was. So the Gemara now says, if that's the case, if he's believed, afil overs mano. This that he's believed is only when he's supposed to get paid. You remember, if a worker works by day, he's got to be paid overnight by the next morning. If he works at night, he's got to be paid by the morning. So he should be believed all the time. Why do we say there that if the time has passed, let's say the worker says he comes over on Tuesday, says you didn't pay me for Sunday's work, there he's not believed. We learn if the time has passed, he can't swear and get paid. Why not? Why can't he swear later on? Chazaka ain balabais over below tolan. The balabais is not going to be over on the rule. In other words, even though when in the middle of getting paid, he might forget he paid this guy or that guy. Presumably, he knows the whole payroll, what it's worth, and therefore he wouldn't have been over. Chazaka, there's a presumption that he wouldn't have let the day pass or the night pass whenever he had to pay without paying him. So therefore, if it's in the middle of the time that he's supposed to get paid, he might have gotten confused. But afterwards, he makes sure that he paid everybody. I've Amar Balbais Tub before, but you said, how could he be sure? You said he's busy with his workers. That's before the Zman of the time limit, the deadline for paying everybody. The Torah gives you a deadline. You got to pay him. If he's a day worker, you got to pay him by the next morning. If he's a night worker, you got to pay him by the end of the next day. So that's before the deadline. But but once the deadline has come, Rami and Afshay, he forces himself with Midkar and he remembers who he paid and who he didn't pay. He checks his books carefully. So what do you say? That you don't believe the Sachar anymore, the worker after time? You just say the owner would not be over on Baltolan of delaying payment. Well, the worker also is not going to be over on getting paid twice, stealing. Says Gabe Balabais, Balabais has two chazakas, two presumptions on his behalf. Number one, he's not over on delaying payment past the deadline for paying. That's an Isra Torah. Another presumption that a worker's not going to leave his paycheck with the owner. He's going to get paid by the deadline. So there's two chazakas on his behalf. Both the boss and the worker are not going to delay payment. So there's two chazakas on his behalf, and the worker only has one. So after the deadline, the workers no longer believe with a shvua. Amar Nachman Shmuel. This that we say that the sachir, the worker, collects with a shvua, even though the shvua should be on the balabais, but because during payment period the balabais might be confused with who he paid. This is only and therefore the sachir can make the shvua. It's only if he hired him with witnesses. There were witnesses that he went through HR and signed that W-9 or whatever he has to sign there, right? There were witnesses that he was hired. But if he hired him without witnesses, the owner the boss has a migu. He can say, I never hired you. You want pay me? I never hired you. He could also say, I hired you, and I paid you. And that's what Shmuel says. Nachman says, name of Shmuel, that, you know what, this that we say that the sachir, that the worker can make a shvua and collect, that's only if there's Adam that he was hired. If there's no Adam he was hired, the owner could say, I never hired you. So therefore he's believed to say, also I paid you. Amr Yitzchak Yasher. Good point. The Chain or Rabbi Yochanan also says the same idea, that the sachir only makes the shvua to collect is only if there's proof that he was hired. Since he only says Rish Lakish, we had the same Gemara the other day, right? Since you don't say Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish, you usually argue, or it's brought down that they agree Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish Damar Tavayu. He doesn't say anything about Rish Lakish. You say that Rish Lakish disagrees with that. You don't need Adam. So the economic, some say the same thing. Mishav Shasli, that he was middle of drinking at the time. Rish Lakish was middle of drinking at the time. Rabbi Yochanan said his halach, and therefore he couldn't open his mouth to say, yeah, I agree or I disagree. That's how he's quite. Some say Misha Havishoylai, he was waiting. He waited till Rabbi Yochanan finished all his halachas. Meanwhile, Rabbi Yitzchak had left the base medrash. He didn't hear what Rish Lakish said. That's why he was quiet, because he was waiting till Rabbi Yochanan finished all his halachas, and then he might have argued or might have disagreed or agreed. But meanwhile, Rabbi Yitzchak had left the base medrash, so he didn't know what Rish Lakish said. But this Shmuel says that you have to have Adam. That's only if he hired him with Adam. That's the only time if he was hired with Adam and there's proof that he was hired, then he could say, hey, you haven't paid me yet, the deadline hasn't come and I didn't get paid. And I could swear to that effect. But if he hired him without Adam, since the boss could say, I never hired you, he can also say, I hired you and I paid you. That's what, so now we have Shmuel said it, Rav Nachman said name is Shmuel, and we also have Rav Nashir Bar Zvid, Rav, the Rav said it. So both Rav and Shmuel said this halacha. Rav Chama, Kamai Hashmaita. What a good teaching. What a good teaching we have over this halacha, that if the only time that the sachir can swear and get paid is if it's number one within the deadline, but only if there's Adam that he was hired. Amalei Rava Maimal Yusuf, what's so good about it? Im Kain, if that's the case, that you have to have Adam that you were hired, Shvuah Shomer. We're going to talk about the shvuah that a shomer makes. That's the last parak on Daf Mem Tes, the last daf of the Masechet. A shvuah that a shomer makes. Let's say shomer sacher swears he was hired. He was a hired worker. He was paid, and he has to swear that that there was an accident involved. Right? He wasn't negligent, and there was an accident involved because he pays for Gneven and Aveda. If it was lost or stolen, Gneven and Aveda, he has to pay. So this day he has to swear. He has to swear that it was the animal. There was an accident and it died or something of that sort. There was an accident involved, right? This that a shomer swears. The Chayv Rachmana, he has to make Hashem made him swear Minat Torah. That's the Shvuah Shem Torah that he swears to away. How do you find that he has to swear? He could say, I never took the item from you. How do you're making me swear because I was a shomer sacher? It never happened. You never gave it to me. Since if you're saying I have a migu, since you want to say that Rav and Shmuel said, since the boss could say I never hired you, he could also say I hired you and I paid you if there's no item. So you're going to say by Shem Mechinim also, Shem Mechinim or Shem Sacher. Shem Mechinim has to swear that he wasn't negligent. He could also say I denied the whole thing. You never gave me anything. Yochalam, he could also say there was an accident. Says the Afgilei Beidim. In case he gives with an accident, they're talking about a Shomer Sacher, but it could be with a Shem Mechinim also. Shem Mechinim is not Chayv and Gneven Aveda. You could say, believe me when I say that it was lost or stolen, because I could say that you never happened. So why do we have to make a shvuah? He could always deny the whole story. No, it's the Afgilei Beidim. And Chanam, you're right. It only works when he has proof. When the owner has proof that he gave it to the Shomer, he has proof. He has Adam who saw it. But he could still say, even if he gave it to him with Adam, so okay, you have proof that you gave it to me, but I gave it back to you. Yes, you have proof that I gave it to you. You gave it to me to watch, to guard, but I gave it back to you. So believe me when I say that it was an accident, because I could have said I gave it back to you. So it's the Afik B'Shtara. No, he gave it to him not only with front of Adam, but he also gave it to him with a star. So he says, when you returned it, you should have demanded the star. I have a star that I gave it to you. Mechlal Tarvayu, it's mashmir that both Ram Bar Chama and Rava, who are discussing this whole thing, they both agree, Sfirlu, they both agree that if I give you something and there's Adam, I gave it to you, you don't have to give back with Adam, because that would be a good argument. He said, because if you have to give back with Adam, that's not an excuse. Once I have Adam, you can't say, believe me when I say it was an accident, because I could have said I returned it to you. You don't have Adam, you return it to us. Mashma, you don't need Adam to return it to you. Just like we said before, we paskin that if I give you a loan with Adam, you don't have to give it back with Adam. You could say you gave it back to me anyway. B'shtar tzarich lachzol Adam. But if you give it with a star, you got to give it with Adam. In other words, give Adam or either prove that you gave it back or tear up the star. Kari be Rami Bar Chama. So that's the halacha. They both hold that way. That you still. That the shomer sacher, or that the worker can make a shvuah is only that he's believed with a shvuah is only if there's Adam that he was hired, and similarly by a shomer. But now Rav Meir said about Rav Sheshis, by Yosem David said Var Ma'elu B'Levavo. David HaMelech put these things in his heart, meaning he took them to heart. Why? He said something nice about Rav Sheshis, because even though we just had Rav and Shmuel said that the worker must have proof that he was hired, and a shomer must have proof that he was hired to guard this item. Why? We're going to see otherwise. The Ashker of Sheish is the Rabbi Shmuel. He found Rabbi Shmuel, Amarle, Tani Mar, Midi, Besacher. If you learn anything about the rules about a sacher, about a hired hand, about a laborer or worker, Amarle, Ein. Tanini, we learned that sacher bismano, a sacher in this man before the deadline for payment has happened. Nishba v'notel, he can swear and get paid, like we saw before in the Mishnah. Keitzad bisman. Sha'amarlo, okay, so Bisman, what's the case? Sha'amarlo, Schartani, you hired me. V'onasati schar, you haven't paid me yet. Ba'alom, the other guy says Scharticha, v'onasati l'cha scharcha. No, I hired you and you gave me, and I paid you. That's the simple case. Doesn't mention anything about Adam or proof. Avalom, lo shtayim katsasli. But let's say the worker says, you promised me $2 an hour, $2 a day. Ba'alom, lo katsasli l'chas, I only agreed to pay you $1 a day. Ha'motzi mechavero al there, the worker has to bring proof. Right, the worker has to bring proof, just like the Oman had to bring proof. The worker has to bring proof that proof, you have to have proof that you agreed to $2 instead of $1. Now, Hamida Seifa Barai, since the Seifa is talking about you have proof, Adam, let's say, that heard us agree to $2, have a Hamida Seifa Raya, have a racial Barai, because in the Seifa you said, Hamasim Chaval, but in the first case, where the worker just says, I swear that you did not pay me, doesn't say you have to have proof that he was a hired hand. In the Seifa, where he talks about how much the payment was, the owner says, I agreed to pay you $1. The worker says it too. It says you have to bring a Masim Mechavel Haraya. Here it doesn't say you have to have proof that I was in the ratio. It doesn't say if you have proof that you were hired, which seems to go against both Rav and Shmuel, who said you have to have proof, otherwise the Sachir cannot make such a shvua. Amar Nachman bar Yitzchak, no. Reisha v'Sefer Braya, in both cases you have to have proof. In the Reisha you have to have proof, like Rav and Shmuel says, that you were hired. Adam that know that you were hired. In the Sefer you have to have proof that you agreed to $2, that the guy agreed to $2, not $1. But Raya de l'Shalim Tani, in the Sefer, that he has to pay $2 instead of $1. Raya, that Raya we mentioned. I must have mechavel Raya. But Raya the Shvua Loktani. In the Reisha, what's the Shvua? In the Reisha, we're not talking about how much you have to get paid. We're talking about, can he make a Shvua? Can the Sachir get the schus that the rabbis gave him instead of the boss? The Sachir has the schus to make the Shvua. That Shvua he can only make if there's proof. If there's proof that he was hired. So the proof that gives him the ability to make the Shvua, we're not talking about that. Proof for collection, for taking money $2 instead of $1, we're talking about. Right, the L'Shalim Tani. That's why the Sefer says a Masach Raya, because we're talking about proof as to how much you have to get paid. But the Raya that just entitles him to make the Shvua, we don't mention that. Rashi in the second line up from the top of the page, Raya the L'Shalim Raya, HaMachavis L'Bel Bayis L'Shalim, to make him pay 2 instead of 1, that we mentioned, Raya. Raya the L'Shvua Shein Bo El Galgo as a Shvua L'Sachar L'Oktani. The Raya that gives us proof that we can take the shvua from the boss and give it, because the boss is busy, and give it to the worker, and you need proof that he was hired. We don't talk about that kind of a proof. Just proof that he was hired in order to enable him to make the shvua. We don't talk about that. We only mention the raya when it comes to payment. But the truth is, Rav and Shmuel's argument can both stay. Their argument can stand that you need proof. Proof that you were hired in order to entitle you to make the shvua to collect if you're the worker before the deadline has passed. All right, we'll stop here. Tomorrow's daf starts from Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba on the second line. We'll pick it up there tomorrow. Same place, same station. Until further notice, we'll only be on Zoom. Have a good day, everybody. Shavua Tov and Besurot Tovot. We should have no more Sunday. Yes.
Ephraim?
Yes.
Why does he have to? Why would he have if the owner already admitted that he only owes him he hired him, but he only owed him $1 and not $2.
Right.
Why would he have to aid him that he was hired, Big Valley, or the Balabayat already admitted that he hired him because he only wants to pay him $1. Why do I need to bring?
He agreed. There's proof that he was hired. Now we're talking about proof as to how much payment there has to be. So that's we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see in the next case. The Gemara is bringing the next case where either he swears or either the guy has to bring proof. In other words, the worker now wants $2 instead of $1, right? So either he brings proof or he has to swear. One of the two brings proof. That we're going to see that in the next case. But either he brings proof that it's true, but he has to it's based on the fact that he has proof that he was hired. If he has no proof that he was hired, he can't collect anything. He's not entitled to make a shvua there.
His proof that he was hired is that the Balabayat admits that he only owes him $1. That's his proof that he was hired.
No. Right. Yeah, they're not necessarily the same case. In other words, one is proof that he was hired. If you're right, I didn't understand your question. I see now. If the owner says, "Yeah, I agree that you were," then you don't need proof that you were hired because he agreed. He was motive that he hired him. I didn't understand your question. I was thinking of the next case. You're right. Avram was saying a good point. If the owner agrees that he hired him, the question is just how much to pay him. You don't need proof that he was hired because he already agreed to that. But if he says, "I hired you," and the issue is how much you have to get paid, then he's got to have proof that they agreed on $2. Yes, All right, we'll pick it up from here tomorrow. Mitzvah, have a good day.
All right, thank you.